Christianity is about a plan that God had for his people from the very beginning. He created the world. The icing on the cake was human beings. Unfortunately, we stuffed up, but even in that, he had a plan to save his people. And that plan is seen throughout history. He looks after the Jewish people, he sees them out of Egypt and into the Promised Land, and then he sends his son. And we see prophecies of that from the Old Testament. And so we have a direct link between the Old and New Testaments. And Jesus dies on the cross, and that is the ultimate sacrifice. It's a once-for-all sacrifice. And God then says, okay, well, now the price is paid, I want to be in relationship. And that's really the key, relationship. And I think that's what Christianity offers that is not offered across other religions, is a relationship. It's a personal God that Christians pray to, or they can talk about. They can have a Bible study together. There's a coming together in churches and in small groups. And here at MacArthur, we're Christian staff, so we come together and we say thank you to God, but we know that there is a God who wants to look after us and care for us.
So our Christian foundation is based on the grace of God in our lives. It's based on perseverance. It's based on our service. These are foundations that we help to build pillars upon. So then we start looking with students. We look at respect. We look at self-discipline. We look at humility. We look at kindness. Trying to develop structures into their life that they may not realise is a biblical principle, but these are qualities that come from the ethics of Scripture. From our Christian foundations, knowing that Jesus was the one who exemplified what it means to live in the perfect relationship with God, where we're teaching students through our interactions with them just what it means to live our Christian faith out under the headings of things like humility, service, grace, perseverance, that sort of thing.
So there are a number of compulsory elements for both the students and the staff. Each day the staff start with a devotion in the chapel at 8 o'clock. But for the students, there's chapel each week, and we have biblical study classes from transition through to Year 9, and then Year 10s to 12 have a seminar that they would attend once a term.
Faith isn't something that you can enforce upon someone. It's not something I can give to someone. It's something that we want our kids to ask questions about, be curious about, and they need to discover it for themselves. It needs to be something, a choice that they make. So it's not something that we would ever make a student pray or worship or sing, but we do want them to be a part of our community, where we are celebrating God and learning about God, and that's really important for them to understand the values that are underpinned in the school.
We understand that we're not a church, we're a school, we're an educational facility. Our priority is to ensure that we have a quality academic education, which is based on the fact that we have foundational ethical principles that derive from the Bible. But that line is drawn in those activities to allow Christian activities to allow students from different religious affiliations to be able to make their own choices.
What are your main points against those two?
You can be
raised under Christian influence, but you have to make the decision to follow Jesus for yourself. That is a personal and important conversation.
We're going to go to Jesus' words in just a minute. We're going to actually look at what Jesus said about living is not about just a problem of wealth, right?
I think the main principle behind Christian exposure, or like compulsory Christian exposure, is not so much about conversion, but rather moulding the MacArthur students with a servant mind and a servant heart. Like, at the end of the day, that is our school motto: enter to learn, go out to serve. So when the students learn about the Bible, or they learn about Jesus, or they have to attend chapel and all these things, they're instilling Christian values in them, like service and compassion, kindness, respect towards others, humility, which they can use in their outside of school life, and they can use that to the future. So it's not about conversion, because MacArthur acknowledges and recognises everyone who has different worldviews, different opinions, different religions. But balancing that, things that are optional, like Bible study or Oasis camp, or ministry team, for example, those things are for students who are a bit more curious about the Lord and who want to get to know Him more spiritually and get to know Him on a deeper level.
Devotion, that will dwindle away over life, especially when things get going tough. In your own words, what are your definitions?
So Christianity, we see that in community. We see it in the welcome you get at the front gate. I see it in the pastoral care that happens through house group. So that means that teachers get to know small groups of students and look after them. And then beyond that, there's the heads of house and the heads of school. And we try and look after students both in the classroom and out of the classroom, because everything's related. So that's really important. But it's not just about care, and it's not just about relationship, and those things are probably common to all teachers, because you don't go into teaching if you don't like kids and you don't want to look after them. I think that's common. I think really importantly here, there is certainly a desire to have our students grow into better people. That is, they come into MacArthur and they learn the Christian values, and then we send them out in order to be good citizens. We promote excellence in our academic learning. We try to, at all times, have good academic rigour. We also, God wants us to work hard. He wants us to make good choices. And so those things that just doesn't naturally come. We teach those values and attitudes to our students through every activity, whether it's inside the classroom or outside the classroom. So that's really important. And I think that MacArthur, it's, I suppose, three things: discipline, academics, and pastoral care all work together to demonstrate that we are a Christian school first and foremost. And yes, we prepare our students for the HSC, but we want our students to be better people in the end too.
As a Christian teacher, you want to see children being confident in themselves. You want to see children knowing that they're loved and they're cared. And we know from research that students that feel safe, students that feel loved, they will be able to learn much more efficiently and much more powerfully, because they feel safe. They feel safe to put their hand up in the classroom and to ask questions. So as a Christian educator, it's really important that we show God's love and we show God's grace. There's going to be moments where staff may be upset at a student. They may have made a silly choice, but through God's grace, we're able to work through that situation together. We have high expectations on behaviour, fair expectations, but we can show God's grace in how we deliver those expectations and have those conversations with students to ensure that the integrity of academics and social norms and behaviours are upheld.
So when we're dealing with issues of a disciplinary nature, I always finish with a conversation with the students and say, you know, have I treated you fairly in this? Do you want to make a comment? And I think that just even that short ending allows insight into the care that I actually try to employ when I'm talking to students, to say this isn't punitive for the sake of punishment. This is actually something that I really want to be as a learning situation, and to move forward rather than to bring you down any further. I really don't want. I want to be building kids up through discipline rather than tearing them down. And one of those questions, you know, have I been fair with you? Have I treated you fairly? And I've very rarely had an answer that they said, no, you haven't treated me fairly. It's always been a positive time. So.
I think a main principle seen in every teacher is probably patience. Like, it can be difficult dealing with a lot of kids at the same time, but instilled in every teacher is the idea of patience and like a genuine want to help every student. Like, and they're not doing it for, because I'm a teacher, I have to, but like it's a genuine want to help the students and to watch them grow and reach their full potential, I think. And that's not in just one teacher, but in every single teacher here at MacArthur. They desire for students to exceed their full potential, and at the end of the day, it all comes back to their servant-like manner, which resembles Christ. And so yeah, they all have not necessarily foundations of Christ, but they all have traces of Christ in them.
It's really about looking out for others. You know, the executive looks out for their staff. We look out together for our students, and then the wider community of the parents. And so in coming together, we've got this sort of central foundation that means the attitudes and values we have are common across the board, and therefore we know where we stand. We know where we stand.
I think we all want to be a part of a community where we feel valued, where we feel cared for, and where we're safe. And I think MacArthur is somewhere that is that, where people feel genuinely cared for, where we take notice that things are going well and that sometimes things aren't going well, and that we're there for each other, that we value you as a member of the MacArthur family. I think that's a real standout thing that is really important for us here at MacArthur.
Honestly, I believe my parents made two amazing decisions. First, coming to Australia, and second would be sending me to this school, because this school it's beautiful. Like, I honestly think it's the embodiment of what God's greatest commandment is, which is love. Like, the love between the students and the staff, and the love of the community, and it's just love present in every aspect. So yeah.